Okay, so today what I want to talk about is the reason why I got incarcerated in 1990. Um, I was picked up for the second time um, November 5th. November 5th. No, November 1st. November 1st, 1990 by Torrance Undercovers. But what had happened was it was a week before, I think. Yeah, it was like about a week before. I want to say the 25th or 26th of October. It was a Saturday. I remember the Saturday because I remember uh, I was watching Cops. It was like after 8 o'clock. And earlier that afternoon, I had ironed my clothes, which was some khakis, and I had a Miami Dolphins jersey, Dan Marino, number 13 jersey, one of the teal colored ones. So I had everything ready just in case anything happened. Anybody, called me and if they wanted to kick back or whatever. If there was anything going on that night, I was already had my clothes ready to get dressed and go. I had already showered, and I had already did my hair, and I had my hairnet on and all that shit, and I was just sitting on the couch in some shorts watching Cops. And I don't know, maybe around 8:30, I get a knock on my door. I had the front door open, but the screen door was closed, and there's a knock at the door. So I get up, and it was one of my homeboys. The day before, he was gonna go into Gardena to go see his girlfriend. And even though we weren't really beefing with the dudes from Gardena, he didn't want to go over there because he was riding a bicycle. So he didn't want to go over there without being prepared in case something did happen. Because every once in a while, we would get into a little melees with them, but it wasn't really like beef with them. Sometimes we got along with them, sometimes we didn't. So he had came to the house the day before and he told me, hey, let me borrow your gun, because I had a 38 snub nose police special 5-shot. So he asked if he can borrow it because he was going to take his bike out there and go see his girl. And so I lent him the gun. I gave him a Ziploc baggie that I had full of bullets. I gave that to him. And he told me, well, I'll come back. I'll bring it to you tomorrow. And before I bring it back, I'll clean it. Because he had the cleaner to clean the guns and all that, to oil it and all that. So he took it. So here I am Saturday night. He's knocking at my door. And so I go to the door and I'm like, what's going on, man? And he's like, oh, I came to bring you back your gun. And I said, did you have to use it? He's like, no. He goes, but I did take it home and I oiled it and all that stuff and cleaned it up. And I said, okay. So I got it from him. And he's like, what are you up to tonight? And I was like, nothing. I'm here, just hanging out. So he says, hey, you want to go to some Halloween parties? Because it was like a couple days before Halloween. Want to go to some Halloween parties? And I was like, yeah, fuck it. I'm not doing nothing. So let me get dressed real quick. So he goes, I'll go outside and I'll wait in the car. I'll wait at the car in the front of the house. Because I lived in a back house, on a duplex. The front house, my uncle lived there. And it was his property. So anyways, he said, I'll wait in the front. So I said, all right. So I went to the restroom, started brushed my teeth, started getting dressed. But I remember that night when I was sitting there on the couch before he had showed up. I was already angry. I was already angry because a few days before that, or a week before that, October 15th, my uncle had passed away. My grandmother passed away. My dad's mom, she had passed away. I want to say it was 2 weeks before that, my uncle passed away, which was her son, my dad's brother, the youngest brother. He had Down syndrome. And I couldn't go to the funerals. I was told that I wasn't welcome there, to not go. And this is all over gang shit. I was from a different neighborhood than all my family, so my neighborhood didn't get along with my family's neighborhood. They were enemies, so it was a gang thing, and I was told that I wasn't welcome to go to the funeral, to either funeral. So I was angry about that. I was mad because, I didn't get to go say goodbye to my grandmother or my uncle, and I was close to both of them. So, amongst other things, I was just an angry person at that time. I want to say it was probably like maybe like 2 weeks, 3 weeks before that. I killed my neighbor's dog. I shot my neighbor's dog in broad daylight. I came out, he was barking, barking and barking and barking, and my brother and his friend were out playing in front of our house, which was behind my uncle, which was my uncle's backyard, but it was our front yard. The dogs were over here and behind a fence. It was like maybe like a 5-foot chain link fence. But these dogs would always be right there fucking barking. They were Dobermans, big ones, 2 of them. And anytime we went outside, these dogs would run to the fence, and they would just, they were like act all vicious and shit. And so they were doing that shit one day. My brother was out there playing with his friends, and I was sitting on the couch, and again I was angry. I was angry about just about a lot of shit. I was just an angry person. And I was like 15 years old at the time. And the dog just kept barking and barking, and it was getting on my fucking nerves. So I finally said, fuck. I got up. My brother was out there playing with his friend. I opened the front door. The dogs were at the gate barking. And so I shot it. And I told my brother, shut up, get out of here, go play somewhere else. Don't say nothing. Just get the hell out of here. So he left with his friend. He went to the front of the house. And they never found out that I'm the one who killed the dog. You know what I mean? The family came and took the dog, and I don't know what they did with it. They buried it or some shit. But my brother will tell you that really happened. I killed the fucking neighbor's dog. My mother even knew. My mother knew because when she came home, my brother told her, like, hey, Michael killed the fucking dog next door. And my mom's like, what the fuck? Because the cops were there and people were there. Like, what the hell happened? And I told my mom, I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Why is he even saying that? And my mom's like, you better not have killed that dog. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. He's just talking shit. I didn't kill nothing. But they all knew that I did it. My mom and my brother knew I killed the fucking dog. But that's how I was. I was just angry, you know what I mean? And anytime I take, hurt something or hurt somebody, I was going to do it, So that night I was pissed off. I was sitting watching TV, and I was mad. And I was going through in my head, I just kept telling myself that I'm going to fucking hurt somebody today. You know what I mean? I'm going to fucking, in my mind I was telling myself I'm going to fucking kill somebody today. Because I was just so pissed off. So then he shows up. So I get dressed and I go out to the car. And when I get out there, there's 2 guys in the car. One's in the front seat, driver, and the other was a back seat passenger. So I walk up to the car, and my homeboy tells me, I tell him, who's these guys? Because I didn't know who they were. And he said, oh, this is so-and-so, they're from Gardena. So I said, oh, all right. So being the way that I was, I wanted to like assert my dominance over these guys. Didn't know them, but I wanted them to. It was all about fear and intimidation, So I walked up to the driver window, and I told that dude, I say, where you from? And he tells me, and I said, you know where you're at, right? And he's like, yeah. I said, you got any problem with my neighbor? And he's like, nah, I ain't got no problem with you or your neighbor. I said, you guys sure about that? He's like, yeah, we're cool, man. Yeah, we wouldn't be here with your homeboy if we had problems. I said, all right. I just want to make sure. He's like, no, we're good. We're good. And I said, all right, let's go. So we get in the car and we leave. And we go to one party. And I won't say where the party was at, but we went to one party. And, we walk into this house. This is a nice a decent residential area. It's a decent looking house, And when we walk into the house, I remember it was like just normal, average Joe type motherfuckers. There wasn't gang members there. There were just regular people. So we walk into the front of the house, into the front room, to the front door, and just looking around. I'm looking around to see who I could see, if I could see anybody, dressed a certain way, And like I said, everybody seemed pretty normal, So we had to go into the kitchen because you have to go through the kitchen to go into the backyard. And we opened the back door, and I remember when we opened the back door, I just see a bunch of dudes wearing red, and I'm like, fuck. It was a bunch of bloods, and these dudes, we didn't get along with them. So when we opened that door, it's like one turned around, and then all of a sudden they all turned around. And so I told him, hey, let's get out the front door, hurry up, because there was a lot of them. There was 4 of us, and there was probably like, I don't know, 10, maybe 10, 15 of them back there. So I said, let's go, get out the front door right now. So I closed the door, took the gun out, and I pulled back the hammer, and I'm walking through the house. We walk out the front door, and we make a right, because the car's parked over to the right. We make a right, and there's a driveway that goes to the backyard. And as we make the right, we're passing by the driveway. I can see them all coming out the driveway. They're in the backyard. It's a long driveway. They're in the backyard, and they're coming. So I tell the guys that I'm with, like, hey, hurry up and get to the fucking car. Get in the car and start the car. So they hurry. I tell them, don't run. Just get to the car and start the car. So they get over there. And I'm standing in the driveway, and the guys, they kind of stop because I'm standing. They can see that I have the gun. And they stop, but they're talking shit. And so as soon as I see the guys get into the car and the car starts, I just started firing on them. And they just start scattering, you know. And I get in the car and I take off. We take off. Had shot all 5 shots. So I took the shells out. And we had passed over one of them little aqueduct things, you know, where the water runs under a little bridge. So I threw the shells in there. And took the baggie out. I put more shells in, and we take off. And we really don't talk about it. We don't say nothing about it. He's like, hey, let's go to this other party. So we go to another party. And this one was in Torrance. So we get out to this party, and it's on a cul-de-sac. It's at the very end of the street. And same thing there. It was just normal people. It wasn't like a gang party. So the 2 guys that we were with, they knew these people. So we went to the backyard, and they went and sat at a table with a bunch of these girls and other people that they knew, and they were back there. We're back there, but we don't know anybody there, so we're just standing around watching, you know, and drinking beer. And so I tell my homeboy, I said, let's go walk around and see what's going on inside the house. So because everybody was inside and outside, it was a really big Halloween party. And everybody's dressed in costumes, but we weren't. Us 4 weren't. Everybody else was dressed in costumes. So we go inside and we're walking around, and we end up in the living room. And I tell my homeboy, I said, hey, you know what? Let's go into the main bedroom and see if we can find anything. You know, see if we can find anything we can take. You know, we can find some jewelry or some money or something. So we go to the hallway and act like we were going to go to the restroom. But there was like a couple people waiting to go to the restroom. So we're standing at the entrance of the hallway, and there's some couches right there. And there was 2 guys and 2 girls sitting right there. And I guess they were couples. And so they started talking to us. Again, these are just normal people, you know. They were Chicanos, but they were not gangsters. They were just normal people. So they started talking to me and him. And they were like, who do you guys know here? And we don't know anybody. We came with some other people, you know. So we were there talking to them, and we just couldn't seem to get into the fucking hallway, because every time we would try to make a move to go over there, somebody was going toward the bathroom, you know. And plus then people were sitting right there. So it was kind of hard for us to do what we wanted to do. So we just sat there talking to these people for probably about 20 minutes. So then I tell my homeboys, I had noticed that 2 guys, every time when we were in the back or anywhere else, these 2 guys that were dressed up, one was in all camouflage with his face painted camouflage, and the other guy was in a baseball uniform, and he had half the makeup black, half of it white, like he was dressed like the guys on the movie the Warriors, the baseball player, who dresses like that, and he had a bat. And every time me and him would go to a different part of the house, these dudes would be in there. So I told my homeboy, I said, hey, there's them 2 fucking guys again, man. I said, let's go out the side of the house, to the kitchen, and go stand on the side of the house. I want to see if they come out. And so he's like, all right. So and I had the gun on me, so I went out to the side of the house where there was nobody at. And we're standing there talking, and like 2 minutes later, the side door opens up, and boom, here comes these 2 fucking guys. So when they come out and they turn, they see us standing right there. I'm just watching them. I'm looking at them. You know, we're in a tight and close space too. I'm looking at them, and they step out, and I tell them, hey, why the fuck you keep following me around? And the one in the camouflage, he steps up and he's like, hey, you know so and so from this certain neighborhood, which was an enemy neighborhood of mine. I says, yeah, I know him. Why? And he says, that's my cousin. And I said, okay, so what? And he's like, you were at Magic Mountain a few weeks back, weren't you, with some of your homeboys, right? And I said, yeah. And he goes, you saw him there, didn't you? I said, yeah, I saw him there. What do you want? And he's like, oh, I was the one with him. I said, okay, so what the fuck what do you want? What are you trying to say? You know, and he's like, oh, no, bro, no, it's good, man. You know, I'm not from nowhere. I ain't got no beef with that. I remember seeing you over that Magic Mountain, you know. And I said, okay, so that's it? That's all you want to say? He's like, yeah. I said, all right, man. Hey, just stay the fuck away from me, man. I don't know why you and this dude keep following me around, but stay the fuck away from me, you know. I mean, leave me alone. And so we just walk back to the back, and I tell the dudes that we're with. We hung out there for a little while, and I finally told the dudes, like, hey, you know what? Take me back to my neighborhood. I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna go home now, you know. I was getting agitated, you know. So we get in the car and we leave, and we're going down. I can't remember what fucking street we're on, but as we're going down this street, you know, by the time this all happened, it was already like probably close to midnight, maybe. From the time we had at the other party, got to this party, hanging out there, it was probably close to midnight, maybe a little bit later. But we're going down the main street, and I think we were in Torrance still. Yeah, we were in Torrance, and as we're driving, I see Monte Carlo. I think it's a Monte Carlo, a white one coming this way. And we could always recognize Monte Carlos, Regals, and Cutlasses just by their headlights, you know. And it was something that their headlights are their rear lights. And anytime somebody had one of those cars, usually they were gang members, you know. So I could see this Monte Carlo turning right onto the same boulevard that we're on, and they're coming toward us. And as they're coming toward, we're going past them. The driver sticks his hand out the window, and I think that he's throwing gang signs at us. So I tell the guy that's driving, I say, turn around, make a U-turn and go back. I want to see who that is. Because now I see, like, okay, if these are gang members, now I have the opportunity, you know, to do what I wanted to do. So to turn the car around. So he makes a U-turn, he goes back, and he catches up to the car, and we're side by side with the car. And I have the gun, and I put my hand out the window, and I have it in my hand. And I tell the guy, I look over, and I tell the guy, I said, where you from? And he's like, he looks over, and he's like, I'm not from nowhere. He goes, hey, don't you remember me? I just talked to you a little while ago. I was at the party over here in Torrance. We were all over there. Don't you remember we were talking in the living room? And I says, and then my homeboy behind me taps me. He's like, hey, that's the fucking people that we were talking to in the living room at the party, man. Like, they're not from nowhere. And I said, oh, yeah, I remember. Okay. And he's like, hey, we ain't got no problem. I said, all right. So I had put my hand back into the car. And I tell the dude, just take off. So he starts to drive away. And then I said, nah, fuck that. I told him, slow down. Let them catch up to you. And he's like, why? I said, don't worry about it. Just slow the fucking car down, let them catch up to you. And then my homeboy starts tapping me. He's like, what are you doing? I said, don't worry about it. And he's like, nah, man. He's like, don't fucking do that. I know what you're going to do. Don't fucking do that, man. They're not from nowhere. Just don't do that, you know? The fuck is wrong with you? And then the driver starts to fucking freak out. He's like, hey, he's telling my homeboy, hey, tell your homeboy to fucking relax, man. Like, what's going on, man? Like, I don't want no part of that shit, you know? Let's just go. I'll take you back to your neighborhood. And I tell the dude, I say, you better slow the fucking car down. And he's like, man, nah, I don't want to be involved in that shit, man. They're not from nowhere. I don't know why you're even going to do that, you know? And so I got the gun, and I lifted my arm, and I put it like that. And I said, I'm telling you right now, if you don't slow the car down, I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to kill your homeboy. And then I'm going to take your car. I said, so it's either going to be them, or it's going to be you two. So you better fucking slow down. And he's like, he's slowing down. I mean, he's slowing down because we had kind of got a distance because we were in like I think we were in a Camaro, so he had took off. So he was slowing down, but he was like hesitating. And he's still telling my homeboy like, hey man, tell this fucking guy to relax, man. You know, and my homeboy's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, don't do that. And I told him, just shut the fuck up. If he doesn't slow down, I'm gonna kill both these dudes. So tell him to fucking slow down. So he's like, he wouldn't, but he won't say it. He's like, don't do it. But he's slowing down, and here they come. Here they come. And I wait until they get to the side, and I look over, and he looks at me, and then I just put the gun out, and I just start firing. And I let out all 5 shots. So, you know, I can just hear them, you know, the girls, there's 2 girls and 2 guys. The girls are screaming. And I tell the guy, take off. So he takes off. And these guys are all of them now are fucking panicking. Like, what the fuck did you do that for? Like, why would you do that? And he's like, hey, I'm gonna take you guys back to my house. We're gonna go to my house. And the guy that's driving, I said, take me back to my neighborhood. We're not far from there. Just take me back to my neighborhood and drop me out. And he's like, nah, man, the cops are gonna be looking for us. I said, I don't give a fuck. Take me back to my neighborhood. And he said, hey, tell my homeboy, like, hey, tell this motherfucker, we'll go to my house, we'll hang out there, we'll smoke some weed, we'll just kick it for a little while, let the shit die down. Give it a couple hours, man. The cops are gonna be looking for us and shit, man. So I said, fine, fucking go to your house. And so he's like, I live down the street. So I said, fine, go to your house. So we go to his house, and we're in his garage, and we're drinking beer, and we're smoking weed, but nobody's talking. They're not talking. They're like, it's like they're fucking just scared. All of them. They're all scared. And so I'm just sitting there smoking weed and drinking and shit. And I think only maybe a half hour went by, and I told the guy, I said, you know what, man, take me back to my fucking neighborhood. I don't want to be over here. He's like, man, it's too early to leave, man. This shit just happened. The cops are gonna be all over the fucking place. They're gonna see my car. And I said, I don't give a fuck. Just get on the freeway and take me back to my fucking neighborhood. So we get in the car, and we're going down toward the freeway, and he gets into the left turn lane to make a left onto a main street, onto another main street. We're on a main street, but he's in the left lane to turn left onto another main street. And I don't know why he's even going that way. He was supposed to go straight because the on-ramp is straight ahead. So he's in this lane, and then all of a sudden coming this way is a fucking LAPD, and he stops at the light. So we're here to the left, the LAPD's right here, they're gonna go straight. And we see the cop, and it's just his car and the cop on the street. There's nobody else. Then we realize that he doesn't have his fucking headlights on. And so I said, hey man, you don't have your fucking headlights on, man. So he turns them on. Of course the cops didn't notice that right away. So, and then I said, what are you doing, man? Why are you turning left? The fucking freeway is straight ahead. So the light turns green, and he jumps out of that lane and takes off going forward straight. Well, the cops are looking at us. They're looking at us drive by, and boom. I look in the mirror, and I see the fucking cop make a U-turn, throw on the lights. I'm like, fuck. So I tell you, take off. Just take off and get onto the freeway. Once we get on the freeway, we can pull over on the side of the freeway and run down the embankment. We can run into my neighborhood. We can get away. Don't worry about it. I know where to go. Just go where I tell you to go. And he's scared. Like, no, man, I'm going to pull over. I said, don't fucking pull over. I got a gun. I just did a fucking shooting. Don't fucking pull over. And he's like, throw the gun out. I said, I'm not throwing the fucking gun out. I didn't want to get rid of the gun. I said, I'm not throwing the fucking gun out. He's like, just throw the fucking... My homeboy's hitting me in the back. Like, throw the fucking gun out of the car. I said, no. Tell this motherfucker to keep driving. He's like, I'm going to pull over. I'm going to pull over, man. I was like, fuck, man. So I got the gun and I threw it. Well, the fucking gun hits the street. Well, there's a car. We're passing the car. We had just passed the car, and I threw the gun out. The fucking gun bounced off the street, hits that car, hits the fucking cop car that's behind us. And this idiot pulls over next to the freeway on ramp. And so they get us all out, and the cop, I hear telling the other cops, like, hey, somebody threw a gun out a couple blocks back. So then a few minutes later, you hear the cops say, we recovered the gun. We got the gun. So I'm like, fuck. So they have us all, and me and my homeboy were in separate cars. These other two guys were in the same car together. So the cops come to me and they're like, whose gun was that? I said, I don't know nothing about no gun. I don't know what you're talking about. He said, when do you threw a gun out the car? I said, I didn't have no gun, so I don't know what you're talking about. Did your homeboys have guns? I said, I just met these two guys. The other guy's he's my homie, but I don't know about any gun. And he says, well, your homeboy's going to go to jail for it because it looked like he was going to do it out. So I was like, well, I don't know. I don't know about no gun. So he said, all right. He pulled me out of the car. He pulls me out of the car, and he puts me in the car with my homeboy. And I know what he's doing. I know they want to hear what we're talking about, you know. So I tell him, like, hey, just shut the fuck up, you know. Don't talk. Don't say nothing to me, you know. And he's like, hey, bro, like, come on, homie. I just got out. I just got out a couple months ago. I'm gonna get fucking. They're gonna wash me up, man. I'm on fucking probation as it is right now, man. You know. And he goes, I told you not to fucking do that shit, you know. And I was telling him, just be quiet, you know. Just shut the fuck up, man. You're talking too much, you know. And he's like, look, bro, like, come on, like, I don't want to go down for this shit. And I said, just be quiet. I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. So the window was cracked. So I told the cop, I called the cop, hey, officer. He comes over. He's like, what's going on? I said, hey, that gun that you found, that was mine. It was a 38. It was mine. I threw it out. He had nothing to do with it. They had nothing to do with it. They didn't know I had a gun. I said, it was mine. I threw it out the car. He said, okay. He pulls me out. He tells my homeboy, he's like, hey, we're taking both of you guys in. See, we were under 18. The other two dudes were over 18. So they telling me and him, my homeboy, like, hey, they told my homeboy, like, hey, we're gonna take you to the station. Your mom's gonna have to come pick you up. So when we get there, you make a phone call. Your mom's gonna come pick you up. So he said, okay, cool. Then he said, and the cop tells me, since you're being honest with me, I'll make sure that you go home tonight, but you will have to go to court for this fucking gun. I said, okay, no problem, whatever. He said, when we get to the station, you call your mom, have her come pick you up. All right, no problem. So I go, see, they only have me for the gun. They don't know nothing about the shooting because the shooting happened in Torrance. The LAPD picked us up in LAPD's jurisdiction, not Torrance jurisdiction. We got picked up in LAPD's jurisdiction for the gun. So they know nothing about the shooting. They only get me for the gun. So they take me to the police station, me and him. They take us to the police station in Watts. And my homie makes a phone call. His mom picks him up. I'm sitting there waiting. I'm trying to call my mom. She's not answering. Finally, after a couple hours, they're like, hey, check it out. We can't keep you here at the station. We have to take you down to Los Padrinos Juvenile Hall. You have to go there. You can call your mom from there, but we can't keep you here at the station. So I'm like, fuck, all right. So it's like, 4 in the morning now. 5 in the morning, somewhere like that. They take me to the juvenile hall and dump me out there. I get stripped out, put in Unit EF. The next day, that same day, I wake up, make my phone call. My mom answers the phone. And I said, I'm in fucking juvenile hall. I tried to call you last night. You don't answer the phone. You gotta come pick me up out here at juvenile hall at Los Padrinos in Downey. So she's pissed off. Like, she's like, what'd you do? I said, they caught me with a gun. So she's all pissed off, So she's like, okay, I'll get your Thea to go take me to pick you up. She ended up leaving me there for like 4 days. That's stressful because you think you get picked up that day, you think, okay, I'm gonna go home. She don't show up. Next day, I'm like, okay, maybe she'll show up today. She don't show up. She ain't answering phone calls, nothing. I'm like, fuck, she's just gonna straight leave me in here. But I was thinking to myself too, like, how long can they possibly keep me here, for a gun, I'm a juvenile. After like 4 days, she finally comes and gets me and takes me home. Halloween, I think it was the day before Halloween I got out. I was out for Halloween. November 1st comes. My mom wakes me up, tells me to go to school. It's early in the morning. She's going to work. She tells me to get up, go to school. Stop ditching and all sort of shit, you know. So I said, all right, I'll go. And she leaves, I go back to sleep. My brother's getting ready to go to school. He's in the shower. And I'm laying in bed. I'm falling asleep. You know, I'm not completely asleep yet. I'm just going back to sleep. And all of a sudden I just hear people yelling. Men. And I hear somebody yell, if you move, I'm going to shoot you in your fucking face. And I open my eyes and there's a fucking gun. I'm sleeping by a window with no screen on it, just curtains. And there's a gun in the window pointed right at my face. And I'm looking at this gun, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I'm thinking there's gang members there, like they're gonna kill me, you know? And they were like, Torrance PD. They all rush in the house, snatch me up. They have me handcuffed. I'm in my boxers. My brother comes out of the shower with a towel wrapped around him. At the time, I'm 15, so he's 11. And he's scared. He's like, Michael, what's going on? What's wrong? You know? And I said, don't worry, don't worry. I can hear my aunt that lived in the front house. I can hear her outside. I said, go out there. Go outside. Don't worry about it. Just go outside. I'll be all right. So he goes outside. He has just wrapped up in a towel. And the cops were like, hey, you're under arrest for, they had first told me for 4 attempted murders. And so I'm like, fuck. All right, whatever, you know, I don't say nothing. They said, get dressed. And even though the shit took place maybe a week before, almost a week before, for some reason, the same clothes that I had that day were laying over a chair in my room. The khakis, the jersey, my white fucking Nike Cortez right there on the floor. So they tell me, come in my boxers. They say, get dressed. They took the handcuffs off. I got dressed. I put the same fucking clothes back on like an idiot. And then they cuffed me, put me in the car, and they're driving me, and they were like, they were talking shit. The cops were talking shit. They're like, we fucking got your ass, and all this dumb shit, you know. So I'm like, I'm not saying nothing. They get me to the police station, and right away, as soon as I get there, they're like, take that fucking jersey off him. That's evidence, because the people had described me as wearing a number 13 Miami Dolphin jersey and beige khakis, and that's exactly what I had on. So I'm like, right away when he says that, I was like, oh fuck. They took my belt, took my shoelaces, and they put me in a little cage, just enough for one person with a stool in there. And they had me sitting there for hours. And they finally come and get me, and they take me into an interrogation room and start asking me all kinds of questions. And I'm just like, I don't know what you're talking about. They said they were talking about the shooting in Torrance, and they said they knew everything, but they knew too many fucking details, you know. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. They said, well, your homeboys gave you up, man. You know, and I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And they said, all right. You know, I was in there for hours with these fucking guys, you know. But I just kept like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know, you know, I don't know about no shooting. And they were like, well, we got the gun that you got picked up with by the LAPD. So we got the gun. We got your fucking jersey. The people in the car described you a fucking T. And so I'm like, okay, like whatever. I don't know what you're talking about, you know. So they said, all right. So they fucking get me and they cuffed me back up and they put me in a car and they're like, okay, we're gonna take you down to LP. You're going back to LP, to Los Padrinos. So they put me in the car, started driving toward LP, and then the passenger cop turns around and he's like, well, at least you're gonna have company. You won't be alone. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, your homeboy's there. We picked him and the other 2 guys up yesterday. How the fuck do you think we got all this information? We picked them up yesterday. We could have picked you up too yesterday from school, but we didn't. We let you stay out because we wanted to get them first, because we already know from the witnesses, from the car that you shot into, who did what. So your homeboys already gave you up already. I said, well, they ain't my homeboys, so I don't know what you're talking about. So then I get to LP and same thing. They strip me out. They put me back in the same unit, EF. And as soon as I get there, my homeboy's there. I see him right there. And so I get in and right away I go over to him and I say, come on, I'm gonna talk to you over here. So we're standing kind of by the hallway, by the control booth area. And we're sitting on the floor. And I tell him, I said, let me ask you something. Did you fucking rat me out? He's like, nah, homie, like I wouldn't do that. I ain't no fucking rat and blah, blah. I said, you sure? Because these fucking cops sure know a lot. The people in the other car, they weren't in the fucking car with us. So how the fuck they know the conversation? Nah, it wasn't me. I would never do that, man. You know me, homie. I wasn't around you. I said, all right, we'll see. Maybe a week later, we go to court together, me and him. They put us in the van. Well, me, him, and a bunch of other guys. And I remember one of the guys that went was he was a guy from Gardena. And we go to I don't know why we ended up in Inglewood court, because the shit happened in Torrance. Maybe Torrance didn't have a juvenile court at the time, I don't know, but they took us to Inglewood court. So we're all in holding tanks together. There's 2 holding tanks next to each other, and there's probably like 10, 15 guys in each holding tank. So we're all jammed up in there. And they're calling out maybe like 4 or 5 guys at a time. And they're taking them into court. And then as they're done, they bring them one back in. He's done in court, they bring him back in. Next guy, bring him back in. So they call him, my homeboy, and 3, 4 other guys, whatever. They go. And one of the guys that went was the guy from Gardena. I guess they put you in like a little bullpen area to wait to get called in. So they went in there, and one by one they started coming back. The guy from Gardena has come back last, and they start calling more names. And I tell the guy from Gardena, I says, hey, where's my homeboy at? And he says, oh, he got released. He never came back in. He got released. And I was like, fuck. All right. So I was thinking, well, maybe they don't have no evidence. Maybe they don't have enough evidence. Maybe it's going to be another DA reject, I had a bunch of those already, so maybe I'm going to get a DA reject, So I was thinking, like, well, maybe I'll go home today. So I go into the court, and well, I go see my attorney first. And she says, no, I think, yeah, I went into the court, and they told me what they're charging me with. And it was 3 assaults with a firearm. That's what they're charging me with. If I'm gonna plead guilty on that bullshit, not guilty. I'm trying to remember. I don't think I ended up going back to court. I talked to the attorney, and the attorney says they released him. He gave you up with the other 3 guys, the other 2 guys you were with. She showed me the paperwork. She said, look, all the guys that you were with identified you. The people in the car, 4 people in the car, 3 of them identified you. The one guy in the back said he couldn't recognize you. He doesn't know who you are. He didn't point you out on that lineup. But the other 3 people in the car did, and your 3 friends did. So she's like, you got 6 people that are willing to go to fucking trial against you. They'll testify against you. They have the gun, they have the jersey. She's like, there's no way that you're gonna win this case. None whatsoever. She goes, we can probably get things lowered. She goes, but other than that, you're gonna do time. There's nothing I can do about it. It's just like an open and shut case. She says, I said, what am I looking at then? She says, if you plead not guilty right now, they're gonna charge you with 3 assaults with the use of a firearm, which is they want to give you 30 years as an adult. They're gonna try you as an adult, and they're gonna fucking they're gonna go for the maximum if you plead not guilty right now, and they're gonna fucking get it because you have too much against you. And she says, but if you plead guilty, you'll be charged as a juvenile, and you're looking at like being locked up until you're 25 years old if they max you out. They can't keep you past your 25th birthday. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, fuck, I'm only 15 years old, man. You know, I can, that's, 10 years. And I'm like, either 10 years, these guys are going to try to throw the book at me and give me 30 years. This is the best thing for me to do is just to plead guilty. So I said, just give me some time to think about it. I'll let you know when I get in there. So then they finally get me into the court, and they asked me what I'm pleading, and I just said, I said I plead guilty, So the judge says, okay. The DA says, well, since he's pleading guilty, we'll go ahead and drop one of the charges. We'll drop it down to 2 assaults with the use of a firearm, which is going to hold 5 years per charge. Okay, so they had sentenced me to the 10 years. But before that had taken place, when we were in the back room, when I was in the back room talking to the attorney, I remember telling her, I says, see if you can get me county cap. I said, because I have never been locked up before. This is the first time that, this is pretty much my first offense, And see if you can get me into county camp, because I knew if I went to county camp that I would do a year or less. They didn't keep you in county camp for more than a year. Usually you did about 9-10 months and you got out. She's like, I don't think I'm gonna be able to do that. She goes, but I'll try. I'll ask when we go in there. So when we did go into the courtroom, and they were, talking about the case and all that, my attorney tells the judge, that I was requested to go to county camp. And the judge was looking through the paperwork and everything. He says, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was Judge Dorn. He says, there's no way that I'm sending this guy to county camp. He's been arrested multiple times for assault and battery, assault with intent to do great bodily injury, assault with a deadly weapon. He's been arrested multiple times. He's only 15 years old, and he says it's a miracle that he hasn't killed anybody. It's a miracle that he has not done any time. How he keeps getting away with these things over and over again is, I don't understand. He says, so no, there's no way this guy, he's gonna go do time. This time he's going away. So then that was that. That's when, I was sentenced to 10 years. I remember my mom being there, and my girlfriend at the time was with her cousin. So they were with my mother there. They were sitting right behind me in the courtroom. And I remember just turning around, and my girlfriend was crying, and my mom was just sitting there, like, just staring at me, and I just, everything, I was sentenced and all that stuff like that. I got up, they took me back into the back room, into the holding tank at the bottom with everybody else. And I just sat there thinking about it, because when I got in there, people weren't like, hey, what happened? What happened, homie? Like, you could tell when somebody walked back into the room if they got time or if they were going to be going home, or they didn't get much time. I walked in there, I was just like, you can see the look on my face, And I remember the guy from Gardena was like, what happened? And I said, they gave me 10 years. And he's like, fuck. We're kids. He was like 14, 15 years old. I'm 15 years old, It's a long time. It's a lot of fucking summers right there, man, And toward the end of the day, maybe like an hour later, everybody that was back in these holding tanks downstairs, they load us all back up on a big on the Grey Goose, it's like a Greyhound bus. Load us all up in there and took us back to LP. They were taking us back to LP. No, actually, they were taking me to Central. They were taking me to Central Juvenile Hall. And I remember we pulled out from, because the bus parked inside the building. There was a big gates that closed. So as we're coming out into the street in downtown Inglewood, I looked down and my mom was standing right there next to the driveway with my girlfriend at the time and her cousin. And she could see me. I'm sitting in the bus and she could see me. And I just looked down and I waved at her, and that was that. I didn't see her again for maybe another year. Took me to Central. Now we're talking about, I committed the crime in October, end of October. By the end of the year, I was already up in Northern California. That's how quick everything went. I went from 2 juvenile halls, LP, Central. Then they sent me to YSRCC. I was there for a month. Then I went Paso Robles. It was quick. The fucking process was quick because I couldn't fight the case. There was no way for me to fight this case. I just had to take the time and go. And that's when I ended up in the youth authority. And I already told that story about how I ended up at youth authority. Well, I went from Central Juvenile Hall. I stayed there for maybe a week. Then they shot me out to Norwalk, and that's when I started doing my time in the youth authority. So yeah, that's the story. That's the case that I had caught back in 1990, and that's how all that transpired and how I ended up getting the time and all that.